So in this video, we're just going to quickly touch upon the structure of a channel. So when we are sound checking and setting up a channel, we basically want to make everything at our kind of maximum. So we're going to put our fader at 0. Again, if we're doing vocal, we want our Vox DCA at 0. If it was the band, obviously band DCA at 0. Because this is where generally everything is being mixed. So we would then turn our main channel up to 0. We at this point need to hit select, so we now know we are editing this channel. If we were to not hit select and we start changing the EQ, editing stuff, we would actually be changing it for this channel. So you must make sure you've selected the channel that you are wanting to sort out. The desk now works in a bit of a horseshoe. So we start here with our gain. So ideally, our gain is the amount of volume we're kind of drawing in, I guess, in essence. That's how much level is coming in. Our fader is how much volume we're then pushing back out. We cannot push volume out that we haven't brought in. So gain is very important. Don't be fooled. Most people think gain should always just be at the 12 o'clock position. That's not true. It's based on a couple of things. One of those things is physically getting enough volume in to push out. Another really important thing is hitting a good level so that the band have stuff in their in-ears or in their wedges, because again, if they don't have enough volume coming in, they also can't hear it. Typically speaking, you would normally sort of want enough gain to hit between sort of -18, -12. If you're hitting that mark, you know you're getting a good amount of gain. So we work around in a horseshoe. So if you hit this view button here, this view button I'll come back to. This view button we want to push first. So this now shows us our EQ. So the EQ is frequencies that we are taking out of that particular thing. So whether that's a microphone, an instrument, the laptop, computer, etc. And those frequencies we are taking out because they sound funny in their room. It might be in that person's vocal, or it might be in the person's instrument. And it's all basically down to a combination of those things. And then we're not saying it's a bad thing, but they are things that maybe once amplified sound harsher than in the natural. So, and there are some things that we take out because they are a known frequency, which can cause issues for people with like hearing problems or whatever. We can also put frequencies in. So you'll notice in here, this is a high shelf. So it's like your treble. So I've turned the treble up a little bit just to bring a bit of crispness, a bit of like clarity to that vocal. This is our bottom end. So I've taken that out because there's nothing in anybody's vocal that is right down that low. So although it wouldn't even be registering that they're coming out that low, it's good to take out. Because if you had a bass guitar or a drum mic or something, kick mic, they would be creating sound down this end, and then that microphone would be amplifying it. So that is what our low cut is. So if you move the low cut in and out, you'll notice. So that's basically how that works. Then we've got, same as like an analog desk, you got like your treble, your mids, your low mids, and your lows. So they correspond to the bits on here. So if I press the low button, you'll see this line has come up. So my gain is how much I'm taking out or adding in. My width here is how sharp that is. So whether that's a pinpointed frequency, or whether that's like a group of, or just to soften it a little bit, then the frequency button moves us around to select where that frequency is. Now, real quick, brief overview. This area here is a lot of boxiness. So when you get someone's vocal and it's sounding a little bit like, it's hard to explain, you'll understand when you hear it, but a bit boxy, this tends to be what you want to take out. If they've got quite a low rumbly tone, this tends to be around the area that we take it out. Most people, most microphones, most sound systems around this sort of like 2 to 4K mark have a certain frequency where they're just a bit harsh and feed back. So that you'll probably notice if I show you on like the keys, for instance, similar sort of thing with the boxiness, but actually you'll see I've added some low tone in. If we look at maybe a guitar, again, taking out sort of the lower tone, and then there's just a couple of little tones in here. Obviously, each one is different, but it gives you an idea. That's the sort of stuff that we're looking for. So we then carry on round our horseshoe into our compressors. Now, these can be overly done, so just be really careful how you do a compressor. Basically, a compressor stops the volume from going up, 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 and then distorting. So it keeps a bit of a, it's not a lid, because that would be a limiter, but it's kind of like, a good analogy would be, if you imagine 100 sheep all trying to run through a gate into a field, and you need to limit the amount of sheep coming through. So you close the gate to a certain amount, so only maybe 10 can go through at a time. So that is basically what our gate is doing. We're sort of shutting the gate, but we're not totally shutting the gate. So the more we turn that gate down, the less it's going to allow the volume to come out. So we don't want to over compress it, because you'll hear that. So if you over compress something, you actually hear it pushing the sound back down. So we don't want to over compress it. There are some better videos where we talk about compressors and all these different settings. As a standard, I have set the compressors on everything to a level that I think, well, to a level that does work. Again, it will need a little bit of tweaking as we develop this stuff. Gates, I wouldn't worry about. The gate, maybe I've just used a bad analogy of telling you about closing the gate. The gate on this end is basically the same thing, but it's the other way. So it's at what point the volume can start coming in. So if I was to turn this gate on, at the moment, the volume can come in as quiet as anything. If I move this gate up to here, that means I could be making sound at this level, but it's not yet coming through the mic being amplified until I hit this moment, and then it will allow the sound through. So that's helpful for like drum kits, because if you're hitting a snare drum, you don't necessarily want the tom drum microphone to be amplifying that sound. So you'd use it in those sort of circumstances. I have seen people use them on vocals. I would not do that, because if someone does move further back from their vocal mic, or if someone starts to sing much softlier, it won't be amplifying them, so you won't hear them. So that's not the way to use a gate. So yeah, that's basically worked around in our horseshoe. We've now obviously got a great level in set everything at 0. As you then go through and you're sort of sound checking, you're mixing your bands, you might find, oh, that vocalist has got a much louder voice. You might bring them down 5 dB, or you might find, compared to this person, they're a little bit quieter. So you might be able to then push them up 5 dB. That's why we mix everything at this 0 mark. Because if we were mixing them down in these marks here, the difference between 30 and 40 is so minimal, you wouldn't be able to mix it with such a small margin, and it also gives you a way harder time to actually get the right sort of sounds out of a microphone and out of an instrument. So that's why we always sound check around the 0 mark, and then tend to be mixing between the plus and the -5s. Again, watch the videos on the main site to get a better understanding of that.